Jason Garrett is back on Shan RJ on the Diamond Factory Hotline, 105.3 The Fan. Good morning, Coach. How you been?
I'm doing fantastic. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Did you did you miss us, or did you remember us? Do you remember us at all, Coach? After a decade?
What are you kidding me? It was like a throwback, for crying out loud. Hearing your voices on a Friday morning. It's great to talk to you guys.
Hey, man, it's good to have you back. We were really impressed with the broadcasting debut. If I told you 3 years ago that you'd be a broadcaster or have a Twitter account, which one would you have believed?
How about that? That's pretty interesting. They kind of go hand in hand, is what I hear. So,
are you monitoring the Twitter account?
I am not monitoring the Twitter account. We have someone who helps us with that, and they say, "Hey, can you share a picture?" That kind of a thing. So that's what I've tried to do. But I'll tell you what, it's been a lot of fun. Last week was fantastic. The opportunity to be a part of that with the USFL and with NBC, it really was a lot of fun. I'm heading back down there right now. Got a big game this weekend. We got New Orleans and Tampa, battle of two 1-0 clubs. So it'll be fun.
You don't strike me as a guy who gets nervous speaking in public. Like, were you nervous, on TV first time out like that?
Well, I haven't done it a whole lot. I actually did announce some games at the end of my playing career. It was a great opportunity for a lot of players during NFL Europe. Fox was broadcasting those games, and a number of us went over there and were able to do some of those games. But I haven't done it in a long time. And I don't know if the word is nervous, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into being an announcer. And obviously I don't have a ton of experience with that, but I was just trying to have some fun up there, and Jack Collinsworth was fantastic. The people at NBC, Matt Marvin, our producer, is off the charts. So those guys were helping me along the way, and I just dove in and had fun with it.
Jason Garrett here on the Diamond Factory Hotline, part of the Week 2 USFL coverage. What were some of the challenges, Coach, of broadcasting? We want to get a little broadcast nerdy. We can finally talk about something we can identify with a ton with you. Is it keeping the sentences very short, 15-second bits? What was something that you weren't nervous about, but you were like, oh, it's going to take me a while to maybe get this down while you were in the booth?
Yeah, there's absolutely a lot of mechanics that go with it. And you mentioned it, just the rhythm and the timing, getting comfortable with that. I do believe football sets up well in that you have a play-by-play guy who describes the action and the color guy jumps in. But getting a feel for each other. Certainly Jack and I have never done a game together. We did a couple rehearsals, which were a lot of fun. But you got to get used to each other's rhythm. You got to get used to the timing. You got to get used to the producer talking to you. You got to get used to understanding where your eyes should go, to the field, to the monitor, to the replay, all of that. And then hopefully being able to share some stuff that's insightful to the viewer. So you just kind of work through all those different mechanical things. But it was a fun experience. We had a really good time. We went up to Stamford, Connecticut, I guess about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and we did a couple games. And, what was interesting was the games were the divisional game between the Rams and the Bucks, and the Super Bowl between the Rams and the Bengals. Mm-hmm. And so all those guys. You just naturally know the guys that you're watching, and you have a lot to share. With the USFL guys, they're guys that are really unknown to a lot of people. I had some connections with the guys in the game that we did. We had Lance Lenore and Clayton Thorson in our game, so it was easier for me to talk about those guys. But learning the players, learning the stories, their history, their bio, where they came from, and then somehow sharing that with the audience, because there's so many great stories and so many fun things to talk about, but you have to kind of figure out how to do that mechanically. And that's the process we're in, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Who was your favorite football analyst?
Oh, I think John Madden is probably the one that everybody points to. I was fortunate in the 90s. John Madden and Pat Summerall almost did every one of our games. So we developed great relationships, personal relationships with those guys. And just to hear John Madden do a game, obviously he's the best of the best. And he's someone who shared a lot of this with me in the past. we've had conversations about the art of broadcasting and all of that. And he was always very generous with that. Certainly with my time years ago when I did those games for Fox. I actually did one game in the NFL. I did the Tampa New Orleans game. I think this was 2004, my last year playing. And he was great, kind of helping me prepare for that game and give me feedback afterwards. So I would say Madden's probably the best of the best, and I have a little personal bias because he was such a great friend.
Coach, does that mean that this is kind of the Jason Garrett future plans next 3 years? You see yourself in a booth or back on a sideline? Do you still want to coach, or have we moved on to broadcasting?
Well, I don't really want to make any comments on that. I love coaching. I love players. I love building teams, all of that. This was just an opportunity that came up this off season. I don't know if you know the name Fred Godelli.
Yeah.
He's been the producer at NBC Sports of Sunday Night Football, and he literally is one of the icons in the profession, and he's a really good friend. And we visited a couple months ago, and we talked about this and the opportunity to do this, and it just sounded like it was something that was going to be interesting and fun to do. So I'm diving in right now, but all doors are open in the future. I love football. I love coaching, but this is a fun endeavor to be a part of right now.
Is it, I've always wondered this because, you've either been playing or coaching, so you've always known what the play call is basically on every play. Like, is it that much different trying to react and analyze that when you have no idea what the play call is?
It's certainly a different perspective. There's no doubt about that. But like you said, I've been around football a lot. You're watching football. You're watching plays. It's probably the equivalent of being on our sideline and you're watching the other team run a play. And you don't know what the offensive play is. You know what the defensive call is, and then you're responding to it. Obviously, when you're a head coach, you don't have to describe the action and analyze the action immediately and try to make it enjoyable for the viewer. But there certainly is a recognition that you have being around football for a long time. And the other part of this thing that was challenging in week one is there were no preseason games. There was no training camp practice that we spent a lot of time at. So I think as the season goes on, we'll have seen these teams a little bit on tape. We'll get to know them a little bit more. We'll get to know the players and the schemes and the tendencies. I think that'll help as well.
Jason Garrett back with us from the USFL on Shan and RJ, 105.3 The Fan. Dumb football question, but we always bring it up with Romo because he kind of exploded into fame for predicting these plays, and we've always wondered can every analyst or every former quarterback do that up there in the booth and they just choose not to? What do you think, Jason? Is that something that you could call out on a lot of different plays, but don't? How does that work with some of Romo's magic?
Well, first off, Tony's done an amazing job as a broadcaster. He's so much fun to listen to, particularly a guy who I know as well as I know Tony, and he's fantastic at what he does. And I recognize what the challenges are in doing that. I do think that anybody who's been around it is somewhat familiar with it, but being able to predict plays is certainly a challenge. You can recognize things, and one of the things that's fun about the USFL telecast is everybody's mic'd up. The coach is mic'd up. The quarterback's mic'd up. There's linemen. There's defensive guys. So you're hearing a lot of football terminology getting thrown around, and we leave the mics up and we kind of listen a little bit. And so there's some recognizable stuff that you'll hear that are kind of universal terms. And then there's some other things that are completely unique to their system. So one of the challenges that we've all kind of tried to embrace is we're going to crack the code. We're going to figure out what the different systems are that these teams are running and hopefully share that with the viewer. But I think being able to consistently predict plays is certainly a challenging thing, but hopefully will provide some insight.
Coach, I was wondering, because, obviously coming from, the Cowboys for a decade and then going to New York, what is the difference in the level of basically noise that is around the Cowboys? And the Cowboys are obviously the biggest draw in sports, and it seems like it's a circus around here. How is that compared to other stops?
Oh, I think there's a lot of attention in 32 NFL cities on all the teams. The Cowboys, obviously a marquee franchise for a long, long time. They get a lot of attention, always playing nationally televised games. There's a lot of interest in football in Texas and with this organization. So it's pretty unique, but they love their football in other cities as well. Certainly there's a lot of media attention on the teams in New York. That's a big thing. There's a lot of newspapers. There's a lot of outlets where people are interested in what's going on. And I think you'd find that around the league. But there's no question Dallas is something is an organization that's been a focal point of attention for a lot of people for a long time.
Is there any great part of getting out of that spotlight, getting a little break from that spotlight, whether you don't have to, do the coach speak and be the CEO of America's team? Is there any great part of getting a break from that?
I loved every minute of every day that I was playing and coaching for the Dallas Cowboys, and what a unique experience to be a part of some of the teams that I was around and get a chance to work with the coaches and the players and the organization. It's an incredible place, and literally I never worked a day. I was there. I'd get there early and I'd stay late. We'd work every day. We'd go to work every day, but it was never working. So that was something I loved and so appreciative for that opportunity. And for everybody who was a part of it, the people in the organization, our fans, they were absolutely incredible. So I never felt like I was working there. I loved every minute of it. But this is a new challenge for us, and we're excited about this as well.
I think part of the noise that goes with it is the scrutiny, and I mean everyone has to deal with it. Do you think because of that? Because it seems like every time you turn on TV, someone's always saying, "Is Dak the guy?" And they were saying the same thing about Romo. Is that perception completely out of bounds, and is that part of being the quarterback of the Cowboys?
I just think it goes back to the position that you're in, the focal point, the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It obviously gets a lot of attention in the world that we live in. There's a lot of outlets for people to share their opinions. So it just comes with the dinner, as the great Troy Aikman used to say, and you embrace it. It's part of what the deal is, and hopefully you never let it detract from all the other incredible things about the opportunity. Again, as a player, as a quarterback, as the coach, there's so many great things about being in the NFL and being part of the Cowboys. So my attitude was always to embrace it. That's the thing I always tried to share with our players: embrace the opportunity you have, and focus on what you need to do to be your best. And that's what we always tried to do.
How many of the Garrett, Aikman, Laufenberg tabs has Babe picked up?
Oh, Babe picks them up. Absolutely he does.
Yeah?
Are you kidding me? About once every, 50 or 60 times. No,
yeah, how does that work? How you guys decide? How you rotate that, Coach?
we figure it out. You guys drinking 8 beer?
No.
I've had it. It's not bad.
You got to have the 8 beer. It's pretty darn good, huh?
Yeah, we had a joke there with Laufenberg. Have you asked them for any tips or pointers going into the booth?
Those guys have been really generous with me. Obviously, they're great friends of mine, and anything I ask them about doing this, they're always willing to share, always willing to give feedback. And obviously, Troy's been doing it for 20 years. Babe has been doing the radio for, I guess, it's 27 years now. So they've been doing it for a while. They're fantastic at what they do. So, and they're great friends, and they're guys that have always been generous with me in this regard. So it's been fun to lean on them a little bit.
Coach, I always thought you would be fantastic in the college game, leading young men into becoming adults. There was that Duke story from a year ago. Maybe you becoming the coach at Duke. I was rooting for that. What intrigues you about the college game?
Oh, I think college football is an incredible opportunity for coaches to build a program, to have an opportunity to impact lives. I believe in the NFL, you still have that opportunity. A lot of people say, hey, they're pro football players, they're grown men. I don't really believe that. I think the culture that you try to create in pro football, obviously you're dealing with a guy who is older. Some guys have families, but you still hopefully can have a positive impact on the coaches and players that are around you by the environment that you try to create. And I think that's absolutely the case in college football. You get these kids who are coming in as 17, 18 years old, and you have an opportunity to be around them and create an environment for them where they can be their best on and off the field at a very formative time in their life. So that's always something that's intrigued me. I've been in pro football my whole life, the last 31 years as a player and as a coach. So I'm not going to say college football is foreign to me, but I just haven't done it. I haven't been a college coach, but those opportunities are always intriguing for the reasons we talked about. And then you're doing football. What's better than coaching football and being around coaches and players and hopefully building something great? So those opportunities are certainly intriguing, and there are a lot of great college coaches, really in all sports, who have had such an incredible impact on people, and they help put players and young men on a path that's gonna help change the rest of their lives. So who wouldn't want to be in that kind of a situation? So that's certainly an intriguing situation going forward.
Last one, Coach. While with the Giants, did you eat more at Rayo's or Hoagie Haven?
Well, we certainly ate at Hoagie Haven. We do our camp at Princeton every year, so Hoagie Haven's a big part of that. They sponsor our camp, and they have for the last 20 years. So we love Hoagie Haven. Did have a couple shots at Rayo's, which is absolutely incredible, and the restaurants in New York City are great. So you try to keep moving along and rotating them through, but certainly had some great meals up there.
Hey, man, it's great to hear from you again. Thank you so much for the time. We thought you had an excellent debut, and best of luck in week 2 and moving forward. Thank you, Jason.
Hey, 2 o'clock on Sunday, we got the Tampa Bay Bandits and the New Orleans Breakers. Okay, both 1-0 clubs. Tune in, NBC Sports.
Got you. Thank you, Coach. Have a good weekend.
We'll see you guys. Take care.